Welcome back to the channel. Today we're climbing into the cab of a train from another era for a journey along one of London's most fascinating commuter railways. So we're travelling from Southend-on-Sea to London Fenchurch Street aboard a British Rail Class 305 electric multiple unit. And although this might look like just another suburban railway journey into London, the line we're travelling over has a remarkable history involving Victorian holidaymakers, steamships, docks, competing railway companies, steam locomotives, early electric trains, and eventually the modern C2C railway we know today. So take your seat, imagine the distinctive sounds of an old slam door electric multiple unit around you, and let's head west towards London. Our journey begins at Southend Central. The railway reached Southend in 1856. Although interestingly, Southend wasn't originally the main objective of the railway at all. The original plan was primarily about reaching Tilbury. During the 1850s, the London and Blackwall Railway and Eastern Counties Railway became involved in plans for a railway towards Tilbury, partly to connect with steamers crossing the Thames to Gravesend and to serve growing commercial traffic along the Thames estuary. The railway reached Tilbury in April 1854. Southend came shortly afterwards, with the railway finally reaching the town in 1856. There had even been proposals to bring the railway right down towards Southend Pier, but local opposition to the noise helped ensure the station was instead built further inland, which is perhaps one of the earliest recorded examples of the British tradition of saying, "A railway would be wonderful, just don't build it outside my house." Southend quickly became an important leisure destination. In Victorian and Edwardian Britain, a railway could completely transform a seaside town. Suddenly thousands of Londoners could escape the smoke and crowded streets of the capital and spend the day beside the sea. Southend became one of London's great seaside playgrounds, but the railway wasn't finished developing. The original route towards Southend followed the Thames estuary through places including Tilbury and Stanford-le-Hope. That wasn't particularly direct, so between 1885 and 1888, the Barking and Pitsea Railway was constructed, creating a much faster route between Barking and Pitsea through Upminster. Through services using this new direct route began in 1888, and that's essentially the route we're following towards London today. Leaving Southend Central, we pass through Westcliff and Chalkwell before reaching Leigh-on-Sea. This section gives us one of the most distinctive landscapes on the entire railway. Look south and the urban landscape begins opening out towards the Thames estuary. Around Leigh-on-Sea are extensive marshes, mudflats and tidal waterway. It's quite remarkable to think that we're travelling towards one of the largest cities in Europe, because parts of this railway can feel surprisingly remote. Then comes Benfleet, and just beyond here lies Canvey Island. This whole landscape has been shaped by water. The Thames estuary has provided industry, shipping and employment for generations, but it has also presented considerable danger. One particularly dramatic moment occurred during the catastrophic North Sea flood of 1953. Large sections of the London, Tilbury and Southend Railway were flooded. Between Benfleet and Leigh-on-Sea, the railway was completely cut. For a time, Southend was effectively isolated from the London end of the railway. Normal Southend services weren't fully restored until later in February. Today, it's difficult to imagine when looking from the cab, but this apparently ordinary commuter railway has had to battle the North Sea itself. We soon reach Pitsea, and Pitsea is particularly important because this is where the historic route via Tilbury and the more direct route towards London effectively come together. From here, our train continues towards Basildon, but there's something rather unusual about Basildon. Despite being one of the major towns on the route today, Basildon station didn't exist when this railway was originally constructed. The town expanded enormously as part of Britain's post-war Newtown programme. The railway already passed through the area, but amazingly Basildon railway station wasn't opened until 1974. So this Victorian railway gradually adapted to serve an entirely new 20th century town. Next comes Laindon and then West Horndon. And now it's worth talking about the train we're riding aboard, the Class 305. These trains were part of British Rail's first generation of alternating current electric multiple units. Originally they weren't even called Class 305s. Under British Rail's original electric multiple unit classification system, they were known as AM5s. The Class 305 fleet was constructed in 1959 and 1960, with 71 units being produced. There were two principal versions. The Class 305/1 consisted of 52 three-car units intended mainly for inner suburban services from London Liverpool Street towards places such as Chingford and Enfield Town. Then there were 19 Class 305/2 four-car units intended for longer distance suburban work, including services towards Hertford East and Bishop's Stortford. They were classic products of Britain's early AC electrification era. Power came from overhead wires through a pantograph, and the units were capable of around 75 miles per hour. Inside, they belonged unmistakably to another generation of railway travel. Slam doors, fairly basic interiors, and plenty of mechanical noises. No USB charging, and no Wi-Fi, no automated announcement apologising because the Wi-Fi isn't working. Just a train. The Class 305 wasn't actually the principal electric train designed specifically for the London, Tilbury and Southend route. That honour belongs particularly to the Class 302 or AM2 fleet. The Class 302s were introduced around the time the LTS route was being electrified and became synonymous with Fenchurch Street services. But Britain's early AC electric fleets were closely related, and Class 305s could appear away from their traditional Great Eastern Territory. By the late 1980s, examples could be found working over the Fenchurch Street route as well. And that makes cab footage such as this particularly fascinating. We're not simply seeing an old railway, we're seeing a particular moment when British Rail's first generation of AC electric trains was approaching the end of its dominance. The Class 305 story would eventually take some members of the fleet far away from Essex. Some moved to the Manchester area, while 5 eventually travelled north to Scotland and finished their careers working between Edinburgh Waverley and North Berwick. The final Class 305 passenger workings survived until 2002. Sadly, not one complete Class 305 survives in preservation today. So footage like this has become an important record of a completely vanished class of British electric train. Back on our journey, we're approaching Upminster. Upminster is another historically important location. The original 1854 railway towards Tilbury actually avoided Upminster. It was the construction of the more direct Barking to Pitsea route that brought the railway here, with Upminster opening in 1885. Today, Upminster is a fascinating meeting point between mainline railway and London Underground operations. The District line terminates here, while London Overground services connect Upminster with Romford. From the cab, the railway increasingly begins to feel like London. We continue through the eastern suburbs towards Barking, and Barking is another major railway junction. Here, the London, Tilbury and Southend route interacts with Underground and other railway services, and the different routes towards Tilbury, Rainham and Grays connect into the wider network. From Barking onwards, things become increasingly busy. The wide Essex landscapes are disappearing behind us. We're entering London's dense railway infrastructure. Today, passengers on this route also have connections with the Elizabeth Line and Docklands Light Railway at nearby interchange points, but when this cab ride was recorded, London's railway map looked rather different. Next comes West Ham. Modern passengers can change here for the Jubilee Line and Docklands Light Railway, but much of that infrastructure hadn't yet arrived when trains like the Class 305 were running these services. That is one of the wonderful things about old cab ride footage. Sometimes it's not what you see that's fascinating, it's what isn't there yet. Continuing west, we head towards Limehouse. Today, this area is surrounded by redevelopment, modern apartment buildings, and the transformed landscape of London's Docklands. But historically, this was an intensely industrial district connected with docks, warehouses, shipping, and London's enormous commercial relationship with the River Thames. And we're now approaching the final fascinating section into Fenchurch Street. Fenchurch Street itself is one of London's most unusual mainline termini. It's relatively small, with only 4 platforms, yet it handles an intensive commuter railway. The station's history stretches back to 1841, making it one of London's oldest railway termini. Unlike Waterloo, Victoria, Paddington or King's Cross, Fenchurch Street has never acquired the same international fame. It doesn't even have a direct London Underground station beneath it, but thousands upon thousands of commuters have depended on it every day. And there's another interesting feature of this railway. When engineering work prevents trains using Fenchurch Street, services can instead be diverted towards Liverpool Street via Stratford. That flexibility still exists today. Our Class 305 now threads its way through the railway infrastructure of East London, before finally arriving beneath the train shed at London Fenchurch Street. And what a journey we've made. From the seaside at Southend across the marshes of the Thames estuary, through towns created and transformed by the railway, and finally into the heart of the city of London. The railway itself has changed enormously. Steam locomotives once hauled trains along this route. Then came the early electric multiple units such as the Class 302, together with related types including the Class 305 and Class 308. Later generations of electric trains followed. Today the route is operated by C2C, running services between London Fenchurch Street and destinations across East London and South Essex, with the principal route continuing beyond Southend to Shoeburyness. Modern services use Class 357 Electrostar units alongside the newer Class 720 electric trains. The basic purpose of the railway, however, remains remarkably similar to what the Victorians created more than 170 years ago. Moving people between London, the communities of South Essex and the Thames estuary, and that's perhaps what makes this old Class 305 cab ride so fascinating. The train itself has disappeared. The semaphore signals, sidings, railway buildings and industrial landscapes visible in old footage have changed enormously. Even London's skyline at the end of the journey would now be almost unrecognisable. But beneath all of that modernisation remains the skeleton of the Victorian Railway. The Class 305 has also vanished completely from Britain's railway network. All 71 units have now gone, and unfortunately none survived intact into preservation. That makes films like this more than simply an enjoyable driver's eye view. They're moving historical records. They allow us to experience the sights, sounds and infrastructure of Britain's railway network, exactly as it appeared decades ago. And perhaps the strangest thought of all is that when somebody originally pointed a camera through this cab window, they probably weren't thinking they were recording history. It was simply an everyday railway, an everyday train, and an everyday journey from Southend to London. Today it's a railway world that has almost completely disappeared. I hope you've enjoyed travelling back in time with me aboard the Class 305 from Southend to London Fenchurch Street, and exploring the fascinating history of the London, Tilbury and Southend route along the way. If you've enjoyed this journey, please give the video a like, share it with anyone who remembers these wonderful old slam door electric trains, and let me know in the comments if you ever travelled aboard a Class 305, Class 302 or any of the other first generation AC electric units. And if you enjoy railway history, classic trains, driver's eye views and journeys across Britain's railway network, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, take care, keep enjoying the railways, and I'll see you on the next journey.